You caught what I'm spelling.
He's already there, man. Yo, hello everybody.
Yo,
How's everyone
yo.
doing? The best triad. I mean, I don't want to fucking say it's the best triad, you know, because I'm gonna be humble with it, but it's in some type. It's kind of simplistic triad in a way. It's kind of boring, but super misunderstood. You know, we have this signification. Today we will destroy the signification of typing, and we will buff
Based.
Enneagram 9. The Enneagram 9 is going to be buffed, right? So Enneagram 9,
Based.
if you are Enneagram 9, prepare to receive a buff update during this stream. What's good? What's good? What's good? Pragmatist is known. It's so funny. Pragmatist is famous. What's good, guys? How are you? How's everyone doing? Yeah. We nerfing. Today we are nerfing Enneagram 8 because we have cosplayers, right? We have people who Enneagram 8 suffered greatly because of the caricature created by extreme fucking called Naranjo. So no one fits the type, you know, because people, no one has actual like connection with real people from real life. So it fucks everything up.
So true.
So yeah, fuck the type. It's a crybaby. It's cringe. It's cringe. Enneagram 8 is cringe. Hashtag. Remember that. Always preach that. We need archetypal loser 8s as well as the normies. Yeah. Enneagram 9 are the type I think when I see the press Wojak videos. I think, you know, Enneagram 9 it's such an interesting type to me because I'm quite close with an Enneagram 9 individual. And it's funny, we were talking yesterday on a video call, like in a group, and we came to the same conclusion. I told him, you don't give a fuck. Like your issue is that you give zero fucks. Like you care so little. That's your problem, not caring enough. So he's trying to do everything in order to care more, because he's just unbothered. He's like, nothing's serious, nothing's that serious emotionally, and he's just phlegmatic. Oh my god, he's so phlegmatic, you know. It's crazy. Rain, you here?
I'm right here. I was like, are we name dropping who this is?
I never knew about PDB until I started watching Rust. And I've never heard a single reason I should use it. Well, you shouldn't use it, you know. I think if you value your brain cells, I don't think you should use it. My relationship with BPD is
BPD.
BPD.
Was that on purpose?
With BPD. My relationship with BPD is that I have fucking no relation to BPD. So unlike many, I'm very emotionally stable. But on a serious note, save your brain cells. I don't think if I was just a normal guy who's just on PDB, I wouldn't give a fuck. I'd probably not do it. But I'm a content creator. Plus, honestly, I need. It's like it's cancer, but I need to see what people are saying. Like I need to see the brain rot. It's such a masochistic experience. I need to see the stupidity. I need to see the brain rot. I need to fucking witness it. It gives me this charge, like, okay, you know, at least now I have reason to decapitate brain rot. So it keeps me aware. It keeps me also aware where the community is at with what community believes in. So for me personally, I use it for that. But even then, the brain rot sometimes is too much to cope. You know, it's very difficult to cope.
We get so much of our content by looking at different personality pages on PDB.
Exactly. We do really, you know, right? That's why we know when we should designify a type or a buff a type, because we observe the community. How do you think depression manifests in each of the gut types? I think with the 9 core, it's funny because in 9 has the closest relationship to anhedonia. I think that's the name of the condition. It's like a trait.
Yeah.
And this trait is basically, to put it simply, lack of pleasure. Like you stop feeling pleasure. The things that really were fun before in the past are not fun anymore. So it's a spectrum, right? But the more severe anhedonia, the more severe this trait is. And And 9 core will just become someone who's so numb, will just go through the motions of things, but completely unemotional, completely, the emotions are inaccessible. He's coping with shit not by reflecting inside, but by indulging. Maybe, and it doesn't have to be extreme. It can be him just being on a fucking couch. It can be him doing the same thing over and over again. But it's gonna be someone who's probably not gonna feel much pleasure, even, or satisfaction, or happiness, or ecstasy. Just gonna be the flat state almost for the Enneagram 9. For the Enneagram 1, I think, I just would expect him to become more critical, more more self-critical also, you know, more self-critical, more self-blaming, which then they would blame other people even more. So overall, a lot of just the typical Enneagram 1 traits, but targeted within and then externalized on others. So all the bad shit. With Enneagram 8, I would see probably again, right, a lot of externalization. That's kind of how this works with all of this types in the gut triad. Notice that 9 doesn't internalize. They're not looking inward. They're trying to look outward in that sense, right? So same thing with the 8. They will just externalize, right? Thinking, oh, everything is fine, engaging in self-destructive behavior, being more callous, being more risking their all well-being in some type of way, drugs or confrontations with people, ruining relationships, their own relationships, being just basically what you could expect from a fucking messy 8 core, you know. I think that's what could happen with an depressed Enneagram 8, you know. Oh, Billy Butcher. I think Billy Butcher is a good example of an 8 core.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. He has depression. You would never look at him like, oh, he's so depressed, but the guy literally wants to die. He literally acts like a person who wants to die. So I would say, yeah, he definitely would be an example. So do you have anything to add, Ring, to that, or you think that summed it up?
You know, in ways, I was actually thinking, like, I like that. I like the way that you kind of described depression with the types, because you can see almost an accentuation of their behavior with the added hinge where it comes from, like, them maybe want to end their life, or they want to just get away, and then they double down on their negative traits. I can also see a situation with all these types, and it's very hard to see from the E9s, but you can definitely see it a lot more with E1s and E8s. Like a lethargy, a lack of motivation. I can definitely see that, to the point that they actually seem a little bit healthier in ways. You know, the E1's less perfecting, the E8's less rebellious, and they become a lot more detached and less motivated because they're starting to see less and less points of interacting and engaging within their own lives.
So like almost like a disintegration into 5 for the Enneagram 8.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. That's a good one. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking, right, that's something that because, you know, when it comes to these type of like mental health conditions, they don't always manifest the same way, and we know that, you know. But I like that you brought that up, because I was like, that's a nice counterbalance to what I'm saying here.
Yes.
Because I feel like there's some people that are very depressed, who will become like E1s become less correcting, E8s becoming less rebellious, E9s that are even more to themselves, and it almost looks like they're healthier in some ways. Like, oh, wow, bro, you stop fighting so much, you stop arguing so much, you know, you're just chill now. You're just a chill guy now. Just chill.
Right. So you think for the 8 core, when they're depressed, it's actually the opposite effect. They're just chill. They become detached.
I'm definitely not saying there's one way for it to manifest, but I can definitely see these situations where they become more withdrawn. Because why?
Yeah,
when you wake up, you're just like, why the fuck? Why bother? You know, life is going down.
Yeah,
this
right.
Way.
Going down the drain. Right. Yeah. No,
I'm just not gonna bother.
That makes more sense in some ways. I mean, depression should give you lack of motivation, lack of helplessness, and that kind of does cover those traits.
Yeah, for sure.
9 typed as 4 typed as 5 as autists. How would you distinguish between Enneagram 8 and Sexual 1? I think the biggest step to distinguish this type is to not compare Enneagram 8 and Sexual 1. You're comparing Enneagram 8 and Enneagram 1. Sometimes I feel like people fell victim to this idea that Sexual 1 is not Enneagram 1. It's not. It is. It really fucking is. And they're quite similar to every other subtype in the Enneagram 1, okay? So same like an Enneagram 8. Social 8 is Enneagram 8. They are not a third, like a fourth type. No, they're Enneagram 8, right? So you're comparing Enneagram 8 with Enneagram 1. At the end of the day, Enneagram 1, regardless of the type, is a hyper-structured, civilized character that is all about perfecting the world around him. And they have to coexist in a structured environment. They have to. This is literally part of the Enneagram 1. They can only exist in organized, structured environments. This is not someone who is chaotic. This is not someone who is very impulsive like the Enneagram 8. Someone who, even their attitude to their desires or impulses is still not like that of the Enneagram 8, which is completely free with them. It is the counter type, but it still is not as free with its desires or with its impulses like the Enneagram 8. So they're more expressive of anger. They're still as civilized, okay? That's important. They're still as structured. They're still as perfectionistic, okay? So you have to understand this way. Compare Enneagram 8 with Enneagram 1. There's a big difference. Enneagram 8, at the end of the day, is a very rebellious character. I mean, Naranjo states that rebellion actually might be the core of the type. So this is not someone who's trying to follow the norms or make sure everything's perfect or make sure everything's good.
Or the idea of what a norm is. What is a norm but something that someone else decided in mass to do, and now I have to follow it.
Yeah.
E8s are not anti-intellectuals, and we know that because we're not idiots, right? We don't think anti-intellectual means E8s are dumb. We know that anti-intellectuals for E8s mean...
We do think they're dumb because they're anti-intellectual. We do. Clearly.
To give us a reminder to everyone, anti-intellectualism in the E8 means that the E8s are distrustful, skeptical, and go against organizations, intelligentsia, any groups of people saying that there's some sort of intellectual authority to tell you how things should be, what's morally correct, how the world should be, is very... Yeah, E8s hate that shit.
E8 and that's will naturally have almost like let's abolish this shit mentality.
Yeah,
it's a natural reaction that they will naturally act antagonistic against such concepts. So this is very true, and this is not the case. You know, in a way, this Enneagram 8 is this contrarian, kind of annoying person. The Enneagram 1 is much more consistent. You know, they're not gonna just I need to fucking rebel against this authority. No, they're not that way. You know.
And you know what? I always keep this bookmarked because I know this question comes up quite often. This is from Ira. I'm gonna read a small little passage here.
Please do.
And this is from the Sexual 1 section of Ira, and it's from chapter 2. What differentiates E1 from E8 is that the drive comes from the angry perfectionist need to intervene in the reality and lives of others to direct them to where he believes to be fair or appropriate. E8, on the other hand, is driven by the drive for immediate satisfaction of what it needs and wants, and therefore its drive is more self-centered. Completely checks out.
Thank you.
That's how you differentiate the both of them.
Perfect. And that's the thing, you know. People sometimes, once you stop confusing the Sexual 1 as some other fucking Enneagram 8 discount, you'll realize those types are not similar. They're just not similar.
Enneagram 8 on Wish.
Yeah, you know, because they're just so fucking different. They care about different things, you know. Let me see what other stuff we have here. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff, though. What types do you think would be the most easily confused for other types?
Okay, why don't we do the gut triad for this? You know, let's say what would an E8 be confused for? What would an E9 be confused for? And what would an E1?
Sure.
You know, keep it a little bit on theme.
Sure. I think for example, 1 with 6, very common. Probably 1 with 6, one of the most common. Especially SP1 with social 6, I've noticed. It's such a weird thing, but it does happen. Or even like social 1 with social 6 happens. So with 1 we have obviously 8, like the sexual, it does happen, right? And I think with 1 we have the SP3, right? That's the one. Like SP3, and with the Enneagram 1 or SP1, it does happen. The confusion does happen. But other than that, I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah. Let me think that back. So for SP1, so we're doing E1 first. SP1 gets confused for SP3, SP4, social 6, yada yada. Social 1 gets confused for social 6, sometimes social 7. I'll drop that in there, but definitely social 6 more. And
that's
sexual
true. I
1
mean,
is
you did think
the
you were. You did think you were a social 1, which and I've seen other people also thinking the same thing for themselves. I think there is something to it, you know?
Social 1, social 7 mistype, it sounds crazy if you weren't in there, but if you really break it down, it makes a lot of fucking sense. And I was definitely calling that one. So I'm going to add that there. Social 7 and social 6 are common mistypes for social 1.
So that kind of makes sense. Now with the Enneagram 9, I feel like the sexual 9 gets confused with the 4. You know, I think it's such a common fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
Sexual 9 gets confused with, unironically, SP6 and social 4, from what I've noticed. Of course, sometimes maybe even SP4 if you're not that good with typology can happen. Or basically 4. Because I've noticed the 6, the 9, and the 4, at least in the SP6, sexual 9, and social 4, it's like such a blend of the same characteristics: compassionate, submissive, kind of introverted, compassionate, you know, kind, really docile. So it's like they have all the same traits, which makes everyone confuse them for one another. So it's very obvious with those types. With SP9, I feel like SP8 gets confused, right? People think, oh, is he an SP9 or SP8? That does happen. None of the other 8s get confused, I would think. Although social 9 with social 8, right? When it comes to, although I'm talking about SP9, fuck, motherfucker, okay. There's too much fucking shit here, okay? But the point is, with the SP9, SP8, and with the SP9, SP8, and then SP5. Fuck, how could I forget? SP5, which is a super common confusion. Social 9, social. So with the social 9, you get the fucking social 8 happens, right? Not as often nowadays, but still from time to time does happen. I feel like the Enneagram 2, like SP2 or some fucking shit, or social 2, people might be thinking that's a social 9, so that does happen too. So that's kind of for the 9s. Do you have anything to add for the 9s?
I like what you said there. I think that for sexual 9s, the E4s, social 9s, the E2s, and for SP9, I can definitely see SP5 and even SP7. That SP7, SP9 mistypes happen a lot too. Even SP8, SP9, which is really interesting.
Yeah, SP8, SP9 is actually quite common.
Yeah.
It's quite common. And even I sometimes would be like, fuck. You know, is this motherfucking SP9 on SP8? So, did you go to the church today? I don't remember the last time I went to the fucking church. That's bad. But with the social, I mean the sexual 8, the social 8 gets confused for social 2. I mean that's unironically like the most fucking common mistype on PDB. Like most social 2s are social 8s, and it sucks to say this, you know, obviously, but that's the truth. Sometimes I feel like some sexual 1 sometimes even happens with the social 8, social 9 obviously. Social 7, but that's high. That's because they don't understand shit, you know, at that point. That's kind of how I would say. What do you think, Ring? Do you agree?
Yeah, I think you're on it. I would say that going for the biggest mistypes, social 2 and social 8. And then there's the sexual 4 and sexual 8.
Sexual 4 and sexual 2 and the sexual 8, right? Even though they're not fucking similar, you little motherfucking brain rotted cunts. Who the fuck told you they're similar? I go on PDB and see, I don't know the difference between Section 2 and Section 8. How the fuck can you not know the difference? A Section 2 is... Guys, let's repeat the fucking shit. We are in a church, like this guy said. Like, this is not a church. I didn't go to a church, but let's assume we are in a church. Let's repeat those fucking words, right? Enneagram 2 is a hyper-social adapter who erases his own fucking needs and desires. And repeat this shit right on the fucking board 1,000,000 times. Write that shit. And then imagine FI ego sexual 8. You know, cheek taker. He takes cheeks. He's tyrannical and he imposes that shit on others. Are they the fucking same? They aren't, okay? Because the sexual 2 can be intense, but this is a very, like, vibrant and charismatic and playful and fucking expressive, bright. But at the end of the day, this is not someone who says, oh yeah, I want your fucking cheeks, and just gonna take them. This is not the sexual 2, okay? He's gonna flatter you. He's gonna make you feel nice. He's that typical motherfucker. But, oh my god, guys. And I'm fucking triggered. That's all it fucking took. Sexual 2 and sexual 8, what the fucking... That's an idiotic take. That's such a fucking idiotic take. I'm tired of that shit. Clearly, people don't understand the fucking types. Let's say it here one more time. Sexual 4, I would more likely confuse the sexual... Sexual 4 has more traits in common with sexual 8 than the fucking sexual 2. Simple as. Mic drop. That's it. Decapitation. Spread this take everywhere. Spread this fucking take everywhere. You see someone saying, sexual 2 is like sexual 8. Decapitate them. No fucking mercy. Feels good. God, it feels good.
And just to finish off all the mistypes,
all the
sexual 6 and SP8.
That, oh my god, that is a common one. Sexual 8 is very, SP8 is very common. And sexual 1, SP8, right? That's what happened, yeah. I am the original sexual one they wrote the book about.
It's actually so interesting. I feel like the gut types mistype as each other more than the other like the heart and the head.
What do you
triads.
mean? Like they are less likely to think their image and stuff.
Yeah, like 8 and 9s mistype each other all the time. 8 and 1s mistype as each other.
That's true.
Know. And it's like, well, how often does that really happen with, like, let's say the head types? Okay,
you know
5
why,
and 7
though?
maybe.
Because I think the gut triad is more simple. In a sense, there's less like identity fuckfests, you know? Like with the head type, there's so much thinking, overthinking, but maybe I'm this, the possibilities. With the image core, oh, it's a fuckfest. It's like, first we have the cosplayers. We have the LARPers. Second, then we have the people who don't know who the fuck they are. They're like, oh, I don't know who I am. But I relate to this. I relate to that, you know? So it's a bit different. But with the gut types, it's kind of like, I'm an ape. Easy. Or Enneagram 9. I'm depressed. I don't give no fucks. Enneagram 1. I take cheeks. I'm a perfectionist. And I don't give no fucks. Right? It's so simple. It's not complicated for the gut types.
Meanwhile, you have the image distortion of the heart types that we were talking about.
Yeah, the image distortion. They are the image, which is already a mess.
Yeah. And E1s get close to that, but they never lose. In fact, they never lose themselves. Even the social one. People say the social ones feel like they're already perfect, but the reality is you're looking at someone who's consciously trying to not be criticized for anything. They act and live in a certain way, so they know that there's there's deficits in them. They feel it. They feel it on the horizon, so they act in a proactive way, so they don't get that type of energy towards them.
So,
but yeah, the image types are a lot more complicated because they are the image, like you said.
Enneagram 8 occasionally gets confused for pseudo 8s, which this is true when I've seen this. It's because the person they think is cringe, or they maybe like they show fear, which then they get typed the 6 core, right? Sexual 6 or something. So this does happen. Mainly because people, especially on Reddit, they think of Enneagram 8 as stoic, non-reactive, and a person who only challenges others with high logical consistency. Meaning they only challenge people and rebel for good logical reasons because they don't care. That's the impression they have. So when they see someone like a sexual 8 going off, challenging everyone, rebelling for no fucking reason, then they point and say, That's a sexual 6 brain rot, obviously, a Reddit brain rot. But you get what I'm saying. They're confusing that shit, you know? So this does happen. 8s getting typed as other types. It's honestly, in fiction especially, it's quite common. It does happen. I'm the original sexual 1 cheek taker. You are, yes, you are. Thoughts on Enneagram 9 as the crown of Enneagram?
Oh, interesting.
I've seen this before, but do I care? Yeah. Probably not, you know. But he can take over. Ring, you can geek this over.
Yeah, this was like a more popular concept that definitely when Riso Hudson was a lot more popular on the internet. Now that's kind of fallen off. There was like this idea that the E9 is kind of has like traits of like all of the Enya types. And you can kind of make that distinction. Like, yeah, the E9 can manifest itself in a way that kind of fits like everything. In a similar way to 6 and 3, you know, where they all kind of fit a lot of the traits of the other different Enya types. But generally speaking, I feel like people in general have moved away from that. I kind of moved away from that too, because it kind of leads to stereotypes that like all these chameleonic quote unquote Enya types are just a lot like very similar to the other ones, and they're actually not if you kind of go more deeper into it. So I'm not a fan of it anymore, unless someone else can give me an alternative opinion that makes a lot more sense about it.
Yeah, to me it's kind of like am I supposed to care? You know, that's my reaction to that. I just don't really feel like I give a shit about. Is that going to be essential to typing? Like, what does that even mean? That it's like everything else, like all the other types. It's just a nerd sit down and thought he's gonna make a theory. I'm not gonna eat that shit up. I'm sorry, okay? I don't know if you've seen JJK, but I've heard people say Todo is sexual too.
Okay.
So I don't know JKK. I mean, I've seen it, as in I've seen people talk about it and I know what it is about, but I've never watched it. I cannot tell you about the sexual to Todo. Although pretty sure I knew my friends who probably, I think they watched the show, they typed him sexual 8. That was a long time ago, obviously, like a fucking year ago maybe, so maybe that changed, but that's the last take I got from him about him. Sexual 8 or Section 1 book would also fit somehow, but Sexual Wounds is literally me. I feel bad for you. I mean, Sexual 6 Wounds, that fucking sucks. But who am I to talk, right? I'll open the Social 8 book and it's gonna be some incestual shit happening. So, you know, I have my own fucking... I have my own demons, right? I have my own demons to deal with. The difference is I'll be smiling at the end of it while you will be probably struggling, coping. It's a joke, obviously. I'm full of shit. What fictional character? It's funny, I was thinking about this question, and I have one. And it's from a movie called Why Women Kill. Anaerobic. And it's such a good example. It's almost a stereotype, in my opinion. But one of the women there, she's like, she was the woman in the 1950s, okay, in that time period, because there are three timelines. There's 1950s, 1980s, and 2000 plus. So we follow a couple in the same house over 3 different timelines. And the first timeline, the oldest timeline, that's where there is an SP3 guy, like a husband, and a Sexual 9 woman. She's the wife. So it's a Sexual 9 and SP3. As you can imagine, he's the provider. He's the, I'm giving you, I just want you to be a housewife and cook for me and make me feel like this and just dinner ready when I come home while I work for our family. And she was such a Sexual 9 because she just lost herself in everything that she did completely. Like, she was a housewife. She did not exist outside of him. And when she found out he was cheating, she didn't go say, fuck this guy. She was still, first she didn't believe it. Once she saw it with her own eyes, then she started being like, oh, okay. But she tried to, okay, I maybe he doesn't like how I look. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to change how I look now. So she changes. She wants him to find her attractive. She's doing those things for him. And it's just such a good example of the Sexual 9 neurosis at its peak finest. So Why Women Kill is a good show. I've watched that, loved it, just for the sake of good TV shows. It was very fun. Watch it if you want to see that. Rust will get mad that you ask about light. And why would you even ask about light? That's the most boring fucking character. It's like asking Walter White. Does anyone even care about Walter White in 2025? Who the fuck's Walter White? No one cares anymore. And I'm talking in context of typology. It's like you have a fucking cow and you milk it. You milk that cow for 3 years. Aren't you bored of milking it? Like, guys, no one cares about light. I don't give a fuck about light's type, you know? What about Nate Jacobs as sexual one? No, I don't see it. I don't see it. He'll be an SP8. He's probably an SP8. He's probably an SP8, guys. I'm sorry. I know it's cringe, but you want a cringe example of an SP8? That's Nate Jacobs. Fucking cringe lord. Typing can be hard as a 9-core, as you do not have a clear sense of self. That's very true, and the biggest issue with the 9-core, kind of what I said about the woman, the sexual 9. But all 9s have this. You know what's the crazy? Listen, you almost forget what you want. Like, you step by step, you lose your own desires, especially when you're with someone who is more likely to impose them. So, maybe we should move out to New York next time, from this place, because why not? Yeah, we can do that. Okay, sure. Maybe we can do this then. Okay, why not? Little by little, you are losing yourself without realizing, because in the moment you're kind of like, yeah, but I don't care. I'm fine with that. But then at the end of this journey, 3 years later in the relationship or in whatever the fuck situation you are, you're like, look at me and what the fuck I'm doing. I don't even like any of this shit. You wake up and then it's over, So as a 9, my advice is simple. Pay attention to what the fuck you actually want. When someone says something, especially serious decisions, life decisions, make sure to think, what do I really want? Sit down and think about that,
It's think about E9.
The fuck?
That's
what's the first thing to look at to distinguish between? Did you ask me that question? It's like asking me. It's just fucking asking me. What's the difference between sexual 9 and sexual 9 and sexual 8? That's the same. But I forgive you because your name is Move or D Vision, which I guess is original. But they're not the same. There's no similarity. I cannot even help you because there's no similarity. They're so fucking different, there's no similarity. I can't even help you. Sorry. But on a serious note, I'm gonna simplify this, right? Enneagram 6, intellectual, geek, introvert. Enneagram 2, love need, flattery, charisma, extroversion, bubbliness. Fucking Galinda from Wicked, versus geek. Are they similar? No, they aren't. In fact, they have nothing in motherfucking common. So there you go. What's the difference between Batman and OnlyFans model? Wow, man, that was... You went with it. You went deep with it. Damn. I don't see any difference. Seems the same. Especially when an OnlyFans model can dress as Batman.
Let's be real now. We only have one example of an E6. Everyone uses the same fucking example. It's Batman.
In fact, by the way, there are better examples. There are better examples than Batman. Batman is just like a low-hanging fruit, to be honest. It's a low-hanging fruit.
In my mind, I was thinking, how fast are we going to reference Batman now, since E6 was brought up?
And see, you are someone who's a genius. You think 5 steps ahead. You are the true mastermind, INTJ.
Yo, clip him, bro. I want to post this on my PDD
Don't worry,
tomorrow.
we're gonna make a new compilation video later, like someday. How do you relate? How do you two relate to the gut types? With Russ being an Enneagram 8 and a Ring being a head type.
Ooh, fun question.
You wanna go?
Yeah, it would make sense if I go first, actually.
No, it wouldn't. But you can go.
No, it would make sense.
I'm joking.
What are you gonna say?
You
Oh,
don't need to listen.
Gotcha.
You will start rationalizing. You're just gonna tell me all the reasons. It's fine. Just do it.
Yo, this guy, dude, he doesn't want to talk to 2Ls anymore. He's done with 2Ls. He only wants to talk to his 1 and 4Ls. They don't talk back.
There's no talking to one of. I just want to preach, you know.
Okay.
No, but seriously.
I would say that 7's connection to 8. You know what? I at a moment I was like, yeah, you know what? I can really see a lot of connection to 8 in terms of like wanting that immediate satisfaction, doing things to really enable my sense of my lifestyle, being rebellious. But generally speaking, I'm not really that much of a related to 8. In fact, for those who actually do use wings, I use wings kind of superficially, but I'm gonna bring them up here. I would definitely be easily a 7 wing 6 over a 7 wing 8. Definitely not impulsive. I would never call myself an impulsive person. In fact, I think, especially in comparison to someone who is more impulsive, we have Russ here. I would be way too slow. I'm very slow, and I do that like 6 thing where I like to think about like bad things that could happen, you know, and then just kind of like make sure I have a solution for them. So I'm actually really slow. In terms of E1, I have a stronger connection with E1. Very, very, very perfectionistic, very, very morally I'm a virtue signaler for sure. Like I always look at people like, are these people at the same level of morality I'm at? Do I think that these people really fit the standards that I adopt or have established? You know, I really do see people in that way. Even as a social 7, I'm like, these people are like, are they beneath me in terms of like, you know, their humanitarian values? For sure, I definitely do that, and that's why my alt type is social 1 as well. In terms of E9, I don't think I do a lot of self-erasure. I can be kind of like conflict avoidant, sure. I can be kind of like an ambassador in ways, sure. I like to like diffuse conflict. I'm not a fan of conflict. I'm very conflict averse as a person, but I don't do the forgetfulness, and I don't think I relate to sloth the most. I would definitely say E9, E9 and E8 are like a miss, but E1, I have a pretty strong connection to E1. So that's the way I see it. What about you, Russ?
You know, you mistap yourself, so as a one so makes sense.
I real talk. And this wasn't just like at the social 1 level. You're like, oh yeah, you just thought you were a social 1. I looked at basic E1 passions and fixations. Yeah. That shit is relatable.
Yeah,
that shit is really relatable for me. And of course, social instinct is relatable, so that's like a given. But yeah, it's not like, oh yeah, E1 didn't make sense at that level. For me, it did. It made sense in all 3 of the levels, but another type, of course, made sense in all 3 levels, but better, and that was social 7.
For me, I would say with comparison with the other gut types, right? I never looked at Enneagram 9 and be like, wow, that's me. I relate to it, you know. Never. In fact, I'm like, oh my fucking god, that's so fucking different, you know. I mean, although you can argue maybe some mechanisms can be present, like the way I might deal with some issues, I can almost be like, they just don't exist. So stuff like that can be present if you can argue that, well, that's could be an Enneagram 9 trait, but other than that, it's just hard to see any connection, you know. And with Enneagram 1, it's bad. There's nothing, with exception of Sexual 1 and Sexual 1 only, because I haven't read the books. Okay, keep that in mind. I haven't read the book of Enneagram 1 or Sexual 1, so I can't say. But I don't think I would relate to it, with exception of one thing. You know, the Sexual 1 can be like very imposing with things, like with the truth, like this is the fucking truth, and they can push that, and I do relate to that, you know. Sometimes I can be that way. I can feel like being that way, like I want to do that shit because I believe in my way and I believe it's the truth, so I want to impose that truth, you know. Because, and anyone who doesn't align with the truth or with me, gets decapitated. So that's very, I would say, fitting with the section 1. So there, yeah, but honestly, yeah, I've always just, I typed 8. It's just, the Enneagram 1 is too structured, too conscientious, too rigid, you know, I never related to it. So that's my own personal connections with different types. Let's go. The core is very different, but how can you tell between an SP8 and an SP7 from outside? You want to go on that, right?
Oh, okay, I get it. So the question, so yeah, we preach Enneagram fundamentalism here. We always talk about what is the Enneatype, what is the instinct, and how do we put that together to create the subtype. But what they're saying here is like, if you see this person in real life, they're gonna be an SP8. You know, first off, that's like the outer shell, right? And let's just go with that. Let's just go from that methodology. The Even though we can say that when you look at someone like you look at Russ, you're gonna see they're socially like, and you're gonna see someone like me, you're gonna think I'm a social 7, right? But there are things that you can learn from the core that, of course, trickle down into the subtype. I made this big difference like a couple of streams ago, and I think we even did like a little short on it too. The E7 is someone who resorts to mental games. They use game theory,
scheming, planning and scheming, smart
planning, scheming.
Yeah,
because they're not directly confrontational people. They're just not. Even the signified SP7, who is the most violent, most physical E7, is not someone who is going to actually use that as their number one strategy. They'll fight you, sure, but like generally speaking, every E7 wants to resolve their problems with intellectual strategies where they don't have to say what they need or want. Billy Butcher doesn't fit this. Sure, he does logistical strategies, but he's not playing any mental games to get what he wants. He's someone who's logistically sound. Sure, he knows how to get what he wants, but it's generally a direct confrontation. E7s are not looking for direct confrontations. They're just not. They want things to be resolved in a way that they barely have to wet their hands when it comes to like mudding up a situation. E8s kind of feel like, why are we waiting? To wet our hands, you know, why aren't we just starting now and just like assert ourselves? And you know, it's very, very different.
And the biggest issue here is that the truth is that Enneagram 7 is more, again, it's a more intellectual person. So the way they solve issues would be more, in a sense, smart. And I've seen many, even in movies and characters, 8s tend to do very well for themselves, but then they make a very like stupid decision, or they act impulsively, or they were short-sighted. So then something happens, right? While the SP7 is much more of a schema planner. He is more strategic, you know, far more. I think a good example might be Franklin Saint from the movie, from the TV show Snowfall. He seems like someone who does rely on his brains, you know, that's how he gets around. He's not the toughest, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, but he is a guy who is smarter than others. He uses his brain to get around. So that's the perfect tool of the Enneagram 7 is his brain, not his fists, okay? Remember, or even his outward direct confrontation. That's not really the Enneagram 7, it's his brain. So that's their superpower. You guys have to remember that.
I would even say that an E7 that's more willing to handle things directly, say what they want, and is able to be physically conflicting, that's not an E7 trait. That's someone who's become slightly healthier at asserting themselves. Sure, they can still use that for like bad, but it's growing from just being kind of like this like schemer planner, like Russ said earlier. E8s that are able to slow down, calculate, be like, yeah, I'm not gonna just jump into the situation. That's not just an E8. That's an E8 that's healing from the neurosis of that immediate satisfaction.
Exactly. Yeah. But also not to say that, listen, not to break away the stereotype. The Enneagram 7 is not just the schema, exploit and manipulator. You guys, Enneagram 8 is also the exploiter, and they are also cunning and they are manipulative. Like let's not forget that is written in the trait structure, that they are cunning and they're exploitative. Okay, they will use charisma and stuff like that to get things, to elevate themselves on a like a dominance ladder and shit like that. So let's not just paint the 7 as, oh, they will only scheme. The 8 core is exploitative, but you see this exploitative nature with Billy Butcher very well, I think. He's exploitative, but he's kind of direct about it compared to like a 7 core, you know, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So there it goes. Let me see more. Okay, American Pragmatist is asking an interesting PDB post dropped yesterday, talking about how the average sexual 8 is seen as an outcast, a loser, and often bullied behind their back. What do y'all think? I think this is a post created as a reaction to the glazing of sexual 8 and Enneagram 8 on PDB, which in my opinion, this is still as bad of a post as what the fuck the glazers are doing. It's not to say I don't disagree with this post, you know, but first I want to say that we don't, you know, you want to decapitate a fucking stereotype, you cannot create a new one, and you cannot be so extreme. Every sexual 8 I have known in real life was a fucking loser, and he was bullied behind his back. That's okay, that's another extreme, right? Now, just to tackle this, I think it's not that weird for sexual 8s or 8 cores in general to maybe be rejected and to be you know, social outcasts in that sense, because people don't want to hang out around them or be around them or find them kind of uninhibited or something like this, you know. So it's possible. I don't think it's impossible. And sexual 8, I mean, some sexual 8s are very hard to deal with. And we're talking about unhealthy individuals. No one will want to be around a sexual 8 that's not healthy, because it's going to be a fucking terror. They will avoid them and they will probably talk shit behind their back. But this is what people do about every other fucking type. They will talk shit about behind their back, you know? So, and they will talk shit behind his back because the sexual 8 will probably beat them up. So that's kind of why they do it. But in general, it's a sign that this sexual 8 is not, and I don't want to say average sexual 8. The average sexual 8 is a loser and he gets beaten, he gets bullied. That to me is kind of crazy, you know. I don't think the average sexual 8 is a fucking loser. I think the average sexual 8 probably has friends. He can be wild. Some people don't like him and some people like him. Some people talk shit about him and some people really want to fuck with him. But it's not as simple as he's a fucking loser. It's just, it kind of feels like a counter reaction to the glazing of Enneagram 8 or in particular the sexual.
I really like how you dissected that and broke it down, because you're able to kind of see the intention of the post very quickly, but you're also able to see how like long term that's just going to create another problem, and it's honestly just too stereotypical to be used effectively. So that's great. I like that. I have nothing to add to that except there is an example of a sexual 8. I think Eren Yeager is a sexual 8 from Attack on Titan. Now, later on, I don't think he's a great example of any type, of course, later on. But when he was a kid, you could see he wasn't this Sigma bully all the fucking time. No. He was definitely bullied by other people.
Yeah, he got kicked around, which does now that, but that's a different question. Can Enneagram 8 be bullied? That's a different question, and that's a dumb question, because yes.
Exactly.
They will get kicked in. They will get kicked around. How can you not get kicked around? I mean, okay, let's be realistic. You are a kid growing up, and you go to school. You have your parents. You have authorities. You will yap back maybe and try to rebel, but you will get kicked down and you'll be put in your place. This is how this works, okay? You know. So everyone will get put in their place. Everyone's gonna get bullied. It just happens to fucking everybody, you know. And 8 isn't someone who cannot. That. In fact, I mean, guys, let's be honest. I mean, how do you think Enneagram 8 even is made? Do you think they're just made by good circumstances? I can assure you, they probably made because they go fucking bullied. They go butchered. That's why they are the way they are, you know. And that's something no one wants to talk about. But yes. And Enneagram 8 is probably a victim of bullying in some type of way, not necessarily from their peers, but a parent can bully a fucking son, a daughter, right? Easy peasy, control them and do things on them. So for sure. But yeah, I you know, we want to, especially with the Enneagram 8, because it's such an extreme type, at least in descriptions, we want to have a more moderate approach, more moderate outlook. What is the average Joe Schmo 8 core doing in his life? Is he, you know, a degenerate, or is he just a normal guy making a living, trying to survive, you know? So we're trying to do that. Okay, let me go further. What's the difference if you had to wipe an entire Enneagram type off the face of the earth? No, I wouldn't, you know? I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because I would more likely want to decapitate specific individuals, but not decapitate a whole S type, you know? Because I've learned the hard way, the truth is, it's not about the type, it's about the people. That's the 100%. It's about the people, not about the type. So I would let them all be, because, you know, now if you're a fucking cringe lord cunt, you know, and in my you seem subhuman to me because of your character and who the fuck you are, you just make me fucking sick. In that case, yeah, maybe I would, you know, if you got decapitated, I think it might have been for the greater good, you know. Obviously not talking about you, talking overall. Now, Paul asks, what are the differences between the social 2 and the social 9? Paul, they're not even the same in any way, shape, or form. Social 9 is a militant, social 2 is a militant, arrogant, prideful person who genuinely believes that they are above other people. Social 9 is someone who seems like the helper, like in the traditional Enneagram sense. They will lose themselves to help you, their own desires, to take care of the community, to be workaholic in that way, to support others and give themselves out to other people in this way, right? The social 2 isn't this way. The social 2 is more of a leader. It's more like, I'm the only one capable of doing this, so I'm the only one who can fucking save you. Because all of you cunts are useless. They're not gonna say that shit, but that's the mentality. I'm the old father. I have the complete control. I don't delegate anything. I'm pride.
I can control everything. I would even say social 9, if you're gonna go for like that type of level of difference, I would say social 9 has more in common with social 7 than social 2. I'm gonna say that. And both types don't have
actually,
so much commonality.
I could see it.
Sacrificial helper, like social 2s are not sacrificial in a very direct way. They think they can do everything that you need better than you and provide for you, but they don't see it as, I'm gonna sacrifice for them, because sacrificing means that you had to go against something you didn't have, or like put yourself in a deficit. And a social 2 is not putting themselves at a deficit.
That's a good argument that you made there, you know. Let's go further. Sorry guys, it's taking a bit, right? But we're trying to answer the questions. Guts is asking, sorry for the slow response, guys. Any advice for the Enneagram 8 to avoid fire? Good question. This is a good question. You know, you want advice, you want to grow. To avoid falling into the hypocrisy of blaming people for something when we can be much more hurtful and brutal and do the same thing or even worse. Well, this is something I would say I have a lot of experience with, because as an Enneagram 8, your reaction is gonna be excessive. You know, it's always gonna be excessive, and you're gonna think this person deserves it, and whatever happens, they fucking deserve. And it doesn't have to be something even directed at you personally. It can be something that you see or you witness, and you are not okay with it. So you will, in your mind, it needs to. There must be an extreme measure against that kind of thing. As simple as, because that's the only way you operate. So for you to not be so hypocritical, it unironically would be very difficult. Why? Because it requires patience. Now, how is patience related to you not being hypocritical? For you are so ingrained to act in the moment when things happen, even, or be outspoken, react to a situation. You have to slow down. You have to be more patient. You have to learn to pull back instead of attacking. Pull back instead of thinking, this is fucking bad, this is wrong, we need to do something. Stop and analyze, stop and think, right? Because if you just go on autopilot 24/7, you will be a hypocrite. 100%. 100%. Because that's just how it goes. You're gonna be spewing, fuck this, fuck that, but you are doing the same exact thing. And I was a hypocrite many times. You know, that's the reality of the situation. I was, but I know, I see it. Now that I know better, I see it. And I hate hypocrisy. I hate hypocrisy. I fucking hate it. But then I also see it, you know? So, and understand it. I hate hypocrisy. I don't want to be a hypocrite. So always slow down and think, am I being fair? Truly fair? Am I actually being fair? You know? Is this actually a situation even? Or am I just fucking feeling heat in the moment? But patience is gonna fucking save you from most of this shit. And reflecting. Okay, you know, I'm probably... And taking responsibility, you know? Take responsibility. If you act like a hypocrite, listen, everyone will at some point, but reflect, be like, oh shit, you know, I acted like a hypocritical ass, I'm sorry, my bad. You know? That's a huge step to growth. That would be my advice. What do you think, Ring?
I think you answered that extremely well, and of course, you've personally went through this, you know, and you still
I mean, I go through this every day. It's not, you know,
every day. So
it's an everyday thing, you know, that I do something, and that's the kind of nasty thing. I do something that's okay because I do it, but someone does that shit to me, that's not fucking okay at all, and we need to decapitate the whole lineage, you know, the whole family tree. So it's like, what the fuck? And realizing it is first step for growth, man. So the fact that you know you can be a hypocritical cunt, that's perfect. Now slow down and be more measured. It's you will fail, by the way, trust me, you'll fail. Million times. But you always try to do better. Next question. Should you, Durek is asking, should you take Naranjo's descriptions of childhood of different types into consideration? I would say I would take all of Naranjo's description in terms of when he writes the book into consideration. And I think childhood does make you the way you are. After all, you know, Enneagram 9 has a certain thought process. Why do you have this thought process? It is derived from your childhood. So I would definitely pay attention to it. But if you relate to a subtype or a type, and there are some things in the description of childhood that you don't relate to, I wouldn't necessarily say that you cannot be that type, you know, because it's such a hyper-specific thing. And it depends how specific the childhood description really is. If it's overly specific and you don't relate, makes sense. But if it's kind of like, you know, some people of this type have this childhood, some people of this type have that childhood, and it's kind of more vague, that's kind of different, you know? That's my take. Ring, give your take on this, because I know you're more into this shit.
I love the childhood descriptions of all the different types, and they make sense. I will
especially
say that...
the fucking and social day wanting to fuck his mom. Give me a break.
Yeah,
I read that shit and I'm like, are you fucking serious? Like, are you joking? Like, Naranjo, I know you wanted to fuck your mom, but that doesn't mean suddenly I want to fuck my mom. You know? Like, give me a break. Now, with the whole, like, anti-parental figure, anti-intellectualism, authoritarian father figure, I can relate to it. My father was that way. So I can see the connection, but the fucking I want to fuck my mom? That's some weird shit, bro. Naranjo, solve that shit, because I don't want to.
This is the thing. Of course, you have to. It goes without saying. You gotta be like, oh, this take it with a grain of salt, you know. But I have to say that with a lot of people that I work with, I really see a lot of the childhood, especially in the books. Maybe not the other books, but the subtype books, because your subtype book has not come out yet. Fingers crossed for the next couple of months. And
the fact next couple of months, I could be dead. Next couple of months is forever. Oh my god.
The childhood sections of all the books are pretty solid. Do I expect people who are successfully typed? It's just people who are actually typed as the subtype they're bringing the childhood for. Is it like 1-to-1? No. Is it a lot more than you would think? Yes. And it's kind of weird in some ways. Yes. I think they did a good job with trying to find a general trend or themes that would exist in your childhood, but they're not going to like be 1-to-1 to your childhood, but they'll get close. And I think for a lot of people, it can be very close to 1-to-1. Like, one of the things that I really liked about the Social 7 childhood is that I was like, what are they gonna say? You know, I'm so curious, and it got me hooked from like the first moment, because they said the problem with Social 7s and their childhood is that the Social 7s in therapy will say, they had a great childhood, that nothing went wrong, everything was pretty awesome. There was a positive, happy childhood. And that itself makes so much sense why social science would do that, because they've idealized their childhood, they've ignored it and tried to erase the pain from there. So it's very hard for them to get through that. So that angle really resonated with me. And the more I read it, I was like, this is really good. I worked with a sexual four recently, a social four recently. Both their childhoods like lined up. To me, it makes a lot of sense. Would you not type as something because the child wasn't one to one to you? No, but if you see the general themes, I would highly suggest to take a little bit more relevancy in that. Like
Yeah.
the way Russ did here, sure, he doesn't want to sleep with his mother, but there was themes of a very authoritative father
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
a particular relationship with the mother that's like um more of a guardian or whatever, or you're guarding the mom, like this type of stuff. I think is good to understand, and I think it should at the end of the day, if you relate to the themes, you are that type. Use those themes and apply them to your own life, because
Yeah.
at some point you develop these things. These are real traumas that happen to you. Don't think that subtypes just exist as something that happens
Yeah.
now. It's something that connects to the past, and you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
connect to the
Yeah.
past to
Yeah.
understand your
You are
enneagram
the way
type.
because of something that happened in your past. You just need to
Yeah,
sometimes, and don't take it too literally. Like the father did this. Yeah, it might not be the father, but look at the themes, look at the patterns,
yeah,
look how you thought, how you felt in the
yep,
moment.
yep.
Reflect on why are you the way you are, which is many people don't do. Probably because many of those motherfuckers are teenagers, so they're still growing. Like the fuck, That's why you should go into fucking Enneagram or anything when you are an adult. Don't do that when you are like 16, because you don't even know what you went through or what your childhood trauma is, because you're still young. So yeah. Anyway, moving forward for everyone, where and how do you spot? I'm guessing the word is spot. Where and how do you spot all the three Enneagram subtypes in real life? And bro, it's no different than any other person, any other type. Like where? I mean, just depends on the person. Some fucking 8 is in there, some 8 isn't there. There's no really. I don't think there's. Where can you spot them? If you're asking like where they usually are, like politics or some shit, maybe that's what you mean.
Yeah, it's tough to really tell
Yeah,
you. We don't have a geolocator for sure.
yeah, and it's hard. And how do you spot? I mean, how? I met an SP8 on a party. How do I know he's an SP8? I met him first time. Um, it wasn't difficult to know, mainly because of his, kind of. He seemed to posture a lot, like seems weird, I know, but he the way he walked, like big. He tried to like walk big, like big, and he was kind of a bit drunk, and he was walking that way. And he's kind of talking. I know you guys are this way, and so I'm like, okay, so this is someone who, and I can clearly see, I'm watching, I'm observing, and he's kind of getting. He's telling people, that they're fucking up with something, and I see that he is very comfortable in confrontation. If anything, he even seems like he wants to beat someone up. I know it's a bad example because it's he has issues and he's drunk, but that's the energy. Not necessarily he'll do that, but that's the energy he's carrying. So I'm looking at him, like posturing and shit, and I'm like, already that's, I mean that kind of looks like a fucking SLE, a bit of the SLE, but and then we talked, and then I saw that, after talking, like people are weak, people, they think they have it hard because they don't know what the fuck hard is. I lost my fucking father when I was 15. They don't know shit about hard, look at them, they're fucking soft. And I'm already like, okay, I already understand. I know, okay, SP8 SLE, and the more I talk to them, I'm like, FI vulnerable as fuck, Jesus Christ. And that's how I knew he's an SP8, with the sexualate, I don't know any sexualates in real life, but I guess I would know, probably because they'll be intense, they'll be, I don't know, I just think you get to know someone close enough and you can kind of get a tell on them, maybe how invasive are they, or how energetic they are. Do they have a lot of kinetic energy? How do they carry themselves? Stuff like that. I think you can use to character. If I go outside, for example, I go in the real world, I don't go out and everyone's like, oh my god, he has the biggest balls. Oh my god, his dick is the biggest. Like, no, you know, when I walk on the street, no one's like, oh my god, it's the 8 core. Guys, oh my god, we're
Watch
shitting our
out.
pants. You know, it's the social age.
Hide your
It's like,
partners.
yeah, it's not like this. And if we were on a party, you'd probably think, yeah, he's a fun guy, and yeah, but you wouldn't be like, oh my fucking god, he's fucking so like this Enneagram 8 bullshit. It's like, you know, I think when I was on a party as a third person, I would see me as someone who is, you know, I was confident there, and I uh very relational for sure, you know, making sure nothing fucking happens. Comfortable, making sure nothing pops off, you know, everyone's drunk, so I keep telling them, guys, let's fucking move on. We want to see the fireworks. If all of you motherfuckers gonna take the time like to dress, no one, we will not see the fireworks. So let's go, let's go. So kind of that kind of thing, but a lot of like making sure everything's fine. You know, like no one's beating up someone weaker, like the SPA beating up the fucking SP5 or some shit. You know, just keep an eye, and just by that I'm like, you know, okay, you know, I probably would think socially in that department because of how I was attuned to the situation and shit, and how unthreatened I was, you know, because I wasn't really. I don't know. I looked at him posturing. I knew what he was doing. I knew how he viewed me as his equal in his eyes, in his the twisted way. He's like, you're the only one who can get me. You know, we are equal. You know, while the other rest of the motherfuckers, they're soft. So to me, yeah, okay, not threatened, easy peasy. And if it's something happen, I'm ready to take care of that shit too. You know, if some fist fight happen, okay, you know, if it happens, it happens. So yeah, you know, but no, I don't, I'm not that remarkable. You know, like just a person. So yeah. Examples of healthy. Durek says you've talked about how sexual 5 and social 7 have the most complex neuroses. Which types have the most basic ones? Ring.
Oh, okay, cool. Yes, I do believe that the sexual 5 and the social 7 have the most complex neuroses. I would say some of the more simpler ones would probably be I like to point out social 5, uh, very straightforward, and I like to always compare social 5 to social 7 because they're already compared. But if you look at the social 5 neurosis, it's so much more simpler. Um, and then another one that I would say is SP9. I think SP9 is a little bit more straightforward. Another great example, I would even say the SP3. SP3 is pretty straightforward. And I think someone said in the chat, is it like E7s at all? And I'm like, no, I would say the SP7 has a pretty straightforward neurosis. A lot of the conservation instinct types have pretty straightforward neurosis, unless you're a conservation type, um, like in E4 or even SP2 is just you would think it would be a simple type, but I don't think like 98% of people understand SP2, and that's why I even feel like people don't even talk about that type because like they kind of simplified in their heads as like this bubbly person that wants to be infantilized and then not infantilized and also like taken care of and also take care of other people. But they're actually a lot more of a complex like neurosis. So we kind of jumped a little bit about that on Friday. But yeah, I would say SP9, SP3, Social 5. These types are not very complex in terms of the neurosis. And what do I mean by complex? I mean the amount of sheer lines and information you need to capture the image of what the neurosis actually is. Because I would say that none of these are necessarily hard to mentally like for mental cognition. It just takes more literal words to explain it. So yeah, those are my picks.
Good explanation as usual, man.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you, bro.
You
Yeah.
sound tired.
No, I'm good. I have a
Oh,
hard time.
based.
I have a hard time relating to the mother problems of SP9. My mother is a base section 9, so I don't feel like I like nurturing. He says Durek. Fuck it.
Oh,
though,
interesting.
Then. Bro, you relate to it. If you relate to 9, you relate to 9, man. Don't complicate it. Don't complicate it. Your life's gonna be easier. Just be a 9-core about it. Be like, don't give a fuck.
I'm just a chill guy.
John. It is Nia asks, it is said that 8s externalize their anger. 1s internalize it, and 9s deny it. What does that mean, to deny anger for the Enneagram 9? Ring, what do you think?
Well, I'm just going through like the premise of this question. E8s externalize their anger. Yes and no, right? If you say externalize their anger, you mean like they externalize any action that it could be driven from anger, because they're not always angry.
I think the person means express, I guess. Express anger.
Like literally express? Okay.
You're getting nitpicky. You're getting nitpicky.
I'm getting nitpicky because I feel like this is kind of like, because E8s are not always like externalizing their anger. They might feel free about it, but they don't. You know.
Well, you can't always. I mean, realistically, you can always express it, and you will hold back. It's not that you won't hold back, right?
Yeah. So let's jump into denying anger. I would say yes, because anger, like frustration, like jealousy, like longing, like shame, all these different like qualities are intense emotions that are a bit self-referential, and all the E9s struggle with self-reference, because their natural E9 tendency is self-forgetfulness. They want to distance themselves from the self in that way, and because of that, it feels comfortable for them. They want to seek ways where they can sedate themselves. And I would say that yes, E9s tend to avoid situations where it's not just anger, but any intense emotion is really something they're forced to display, because it refers back to the self, and that goes against their unconscious desire to erase the self. I think it's true. With the way Russ has also explained the premise of the question.
Okay, let's keep moving. Both social one and the sexual one feel a need to correct others. It is the best way to tell those two apart by their ability to control their anger, or is there a way that's a little less vague? What do you think?
Oh, this is super simple.
Super simple. Here we go.
I just want to make sure I read this question correctly. Both social one and sexual one feel a need to correct others. Is the best way to tell these two apart by the ability to control their anger? Or is there's okay, awesome. Denezo, if you haven't read Ira already, the E1 book, they compare these types very often. Okay. The social one is someone who will not forego their feelings of almost reservation within themselves. They come off like English lords, is the way that they describe them. People who don't change their facial expression. They don't want to look indisposed. They don't want to be overtly angry. They have a cold anger, and this is on purpose, because this is actually related to their social instinct. They don't want to lose their composure, because that makes them look less perfect, less elegant, less acceptable. So they hold themselves in, and they double down on their anger that they can deliver in a very reaction formated way, where it is cold, it is direct, it is clear, it is verbal, but it is not someone who lost their composure. They're still elegant. They're like an old English lord.
English, yeah, they're like a royal family.
Exactly, and they do that because of their social instinct. They have an image to maintain. They have a connection to the social spaces. They don't want to lose that connection. They want to belong. And the way to belong is to protect that, even though they can be very disastrous to their relationships. Sexual ones are more likely to jump in the dirt in that way. Not as much as like an E8, because that's where the confusion comes from. But more than a social one. They're willing to raise their voice, raise the temperature of the conversation, tell you how they really feel, they'll still be trying to correct you for a greater equality, a greater good, a greater standard, that people should be like this because of these reasons, and our society is falling apart because of this. They'll still talk in those type of um levels, but you'll see the sexual one be more accepting and even utilize anger in a very traditional way. I know we use an example, Gordon Ramsay, and sometimes I feel like even he's more sexual one than the average sexual one. I think Terrence Fletcher is probably a better example of a sexual one than Gordon Ramsay, because I feel like Gordon Ramsay turns it up for the TVs. Terrence Fletcher, if you ever watch Whiplash, is a good example of a sexual one, where they will try to be this calm, normal, civilized person, but as soon as you go against like what their standard is, you're gonna see their face change. You're gonna see the temperature rise. Sometimes social ones, when they're upset at you, it doesn't even look like their face is changing. You just feel
very
like an
control. The social one is all about control. It's all about control. It's dignified control. That's what it is. Royal family.
That's shit. A really, really dignified control is a really great way to put it, because the social one's controlling everything because they want to belong in their social spaces in a certain way. Sexual ones, yeah, they can be more social focused, but it's the intensity, the connection. It's how they relate to you. They want to improve not only themselves, not only you, but their relationship to you. And because of that, they're more permissive of their raw, authentic feelings and what people would call quote unquote pseudo lust. But yeah, that's how I'd answer the question.
Very good, by the way. Who's more of a helper? Anagram 2 is more of a helper.
E2 by far.
It's not even close.
E2 by far.
By far, yeah. SP2, sexual 2. Oh my god. I mean,
what is a social 2, but not just like a megalomaniac, grandiose helper?
Yeah, exactly. That's, yeah. Why would they be? They're not helpful. Do you think Enneagram 1 are the most religious? I think likely. It's quite likely. I don't want to say that they're the most, but they're among one of the most religious, probably. For sure.
Okay, I will say E1's probably religious. E2 can go either way. E3, depending on the standards of their society, can be very religious or not religious. E4's
spiritual, but not necessarily religious.
Yeah, E5 is probably not religious. E6 probably religious.
Yeah,
I would even see very people like to put social 6 and LII together, and I see some very religious social 6 LIIs. Even sexual 6. Like I don't want to bring up Khonshu and Moon Knight again, but that's an example. They can be against it, but still believe. Yep, at the end of the day, I'm gonna believe in my Egyptian god lord.
It's this weird thing when they are against that shit, and then they still preach religious shit, and I'm like, what the fuck? That makes no fucking sense. But
yeah,
okay.
I would say that E7 generally is not religious. I will say that the social 7 and the sexual 7 are probably the most religious. Social 7, I know the Christian imagery and stuff like that, but I think at the end of the day, I feel like social 7s have the idealism it takes to justify their connection to a body of organization of religion. E8s, forget about it, unlikely, unless they have that really personal relationship with God. Then they'll make it their whole thing. I know you like to use your guy, that social 8
Muhammad hijab,
they'll make it like they're everything, but generally speaking, I think that religion fits with intellectual authority. E9 can go either way. So someone says social 7 nerd Jesus, and I'm like, I can't even argue with you.
You can't argue because it's true.
I can't even argue with this person. Broke the code. I'm well turned off, bro.
You cooked him. Now he's fucking third logic. He's too scared to engage.
I'm cooked, bro.
Do Enneagram 8 often dream of having the power of self-control? I don't think so. I don't think so.
They don't dream about it because they already have it.
Yeah, I don't think that they would. I mean, I don't view it. See, the thing is, when I look at social, I don't view it as self-control. I see it as inhibition. It's not. I think self-control is when I'm so fucking angry at you that I'm not gonna yell at you, and I'm gonna make sure that okay, I'm not. But I don't need to be a social one to do that. The social one takes it even further than that, and at that point, I don't call that self-control. I call that limiting yourself. I call that restricting yourself, which is very different from self-control. Self-control is not the same thing, as limiting and restricting yourself. Very two different things.
I just love these social one questions because you know me, I had a huge social one phase.
No,
So I
I
have so
know it's
much
great.
information about this.
It's great.
We never get social one questions, so this stream
It's
idea
just-
is already fucking great.
It's
you know,
awesome.
I love singing. I wanted to say that like E8s don't dream of having the power of self control that in any E1, I don't even say social one, let's just say that, but any E1, because the idea of self control is not synonymous with what they want. What they want is actually more similar to freedom and anti-subjugation, in which or subjugating others that try to subjugate them, like a preemptive subjugation.
Also,
E8,
you know what it is? Also, like an 8 core might feel some type of way about someone. They don't want to hear like, "Oh, bro, please control yourself." They don't want to hear that shit. Like
they like authentic expression. They like authenticity. They like people who go against the grain. This is not someone who's thinking I need better ways to control myself. They're thinking I need better ways to get people off my fucking back, to adopt my values, you know, in my group, and let me do what I fucking want without being in my way. And if they in my way, give me a good opportunity to give them how I fucking feel about them straight up. You know, the closest you're going to get to an E1 like desire for an E8 for self control, maybe a social 8 who attributes their sense of lust, their sense of justice with the people. Even then it's sus. I think the real answer is, and you're gonna find this funny, the closest thing you're gonna get to an E8 that wants to have self control is a social 7. That's probably the closest you're gonna get.
That's funny
because it doesn't make sense. Social 7s are a good example of someone who's a very hedonistic, quote unquote, lustful, pseudo lustful person who dreams of having that self control. Because if we want to connect it to social one, the social one self control, and then Russ was really explaining this great. Their self control, aka rigidity, aka ability to abstain, comes from superiority. I don't need this. You animals do. I make better decisions. I don't need this pleasure. I'm virtuous.
Yeah, I'm pure, right? Ugh.
There's an exchange, and social 7s do the same thing. They exchange momentary pleasure.
Yeah.
Social ones exchange whatever they find morally virtuous for superiority, and that is something I actually connected with social one back in the day as well.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's possible that an 8 core can have that kind of like that 8 doesn't mean that they want to lose control, you know, because this is a vulnerable. What is vulnerability and what is losing control? The fact is sometimes there are moments where when you allow something to make you react, that can be a sign of weakness, you know, because you react to it, you are vulnerable. So an 8 doesn't necessarily mean that they're always going to be reactive to something or they're going to be fucking ape shit, you know, because sometimes you do have to control yourself, and sometimes you don't want to react to something because you know the biggest power is indifference. Indifference is the biggest power. Like something means so fucking little to you, and it bothers you so little that you don't even fucking acknowledge it. And that's also a sense of anti-vulnerability. This stuff doesn't even affect me. Nothing, you know? So in that sense, it could be, but I'm not sure if that's self-control rather than just indifference, you know? Let me go further. Self-control as in controlling emotional outbursts. Bro, that's an SP8 is gonna be controlling their emotional outbursts. This is not someone who's gonna be ape shit. I mean, all Enneagram 8s can control their outbursts, you know, emotional outbursts. And it depends, again, their people. It depends on their circumstance. It depends on the situation. You know, like, it just depends. I think also sometimes having emotional outbursts can make you weak. So it depends. It just really the fucking depends, you know? It just depends. In general, I think by emotional outbursts, do you mean like what emotions? Do you mean anger? You know, because if I see like you start fucking crying out loud or like throwing tantrum, that's different, you know? But if you're angry, that's different. Or what's the kind of... But dude, imagine you're in a fucking more formal situation and you're pissed off? Were you gonna be like be spurging at people, you know? Although maybe you would, because in the moment you get so fucking pissed off, you're gonna be like this motherfucker. But I don't think the Enneagram 8 lack of control manifests as throwing tantrums necessarily. It is usually more like, I'm gonna confront the situation, you motherfucker. The fuck did you do to me?
And the original question really focused on like the connection to social one, and that's like someone who gets off by denying themselves because of like a moral high ground.
Yeah.
E8s are that type of like,
but
almost,
that's
it's
not
almost like a
the
mental
moral
game.
high ground.
They don't play
of
that
not
game.
Doing that doesn't register for the E8.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I was watching a movie today. It was called The Brave One, and I think the girl might have been an LSI sexual 6. But the point is that this movie was about a woman who was assaulted. Her about to be husband was murdered in cold blood, and she becomes a vigilante. She becomes a fucking vigilante. Typical sexual 6 story. But the social one looking at the situation would think that's fucked up. How does she think she can just act this way and killing people who, whatever, being a vigilante? What rights does she have? She should be put in prison. She's breaking the law. My perspective is, great. She should be butchering them. She should be shooting them up and butchering everyone and killing all of them. That's my mentality, because I don't think, she shouldn't be doing that. That's not good. To me, I don't think law should take care of that. I don't think law is even effective at taking care of that. In my opinion, on a genuine level, if someone that you love or something happened is harmed, I don't believe in law, unironically. Like, you should fix this thing yourself. Make the person suffer. I don't think... That's why I'm glad, when I see a vigilante, I'm like, that's fucking awesome. Like, butcher them, that's what the fuck they deserve. And people then tell me, yeah, but it leaves psychological scars, and it's not. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about psychological scars. Just the point is, you have to enact the justice necessary, and that's the difference. And Enneagram 1 would be like, yo, this is crazy. Like, bro, you're not an animal going around being a vigilante. There are rules and laws in the society. While the 8 is like, fuck them, kill all of them. They deserve it. They deserve it. Yeah. They were picking on the girl on the train, like they were talking to her like they're gonna violate her. She fucking killed him, and that's what happens. That's simple. It's action and consequence. If someone steps on your fucking toe, right, you should have the right to decapitate their toe, because and people are so unaware of the consequences of their actions. It makes sense. You do something and they hit back, and maybe sometimes it's excessive, like you get shot. But fuck it, you knew what you got into. You thought you can get away from the situation scot-free with no consequence. That's not how this works.
Yeah, it's just in it. I think the E8s operate from this place of like personal respect. That, let's say, there's the E8 that would abstain from like fucking being like violent and monkey like behavior.
Of course,
and then that's the same situation in another situation that E8 would do actions that are more like violent, ape-like, whatever. But in both situations, the eight's operating from this personal sense of morality, where in that moment their self-respect was, I act in this way. But in that moment they can justify, they can counter interjection, well, they deserved it. Like there's not this, they don't operate from the same place of the E1 of self-control. They just change the moral,
literally they
the
change
moral
it.
finish line.
Yeah, they changed it.
Yeah.
One time it's they acted Puritan, and like, this is degenerate. This is too much. The next time, same situation, they were like, I decapitate his fucking ass. Like, and it's like, what the fuck? But
yeah, E1s are more standardized in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you said it perfectly. They can be a Puritan and they can be a degenerate, and they won't see the difference because they always change up the moral value of what they're doing to be in their favor.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the fucking tricky thing with the Enneagram 8.
Yeah.
People don't get that, but it's a very moralistic, very judgmental person, critical person in that sense, and not necessarily moralistic in a typical way, because again, there's this twisted of morals. The morals are a bit twisted, and it's always extreme. The response is always extreme. It's not reasonable, So that's kind of how it works. And one time they might be like, wow, you know, I don't want to get drunk, I don't want to be a degenerate, and doing this behavior is bad. And the other time they beat someone up in a completely psychotic way because the person did X, Y, and Z and it was deserved, you know. And that's, look at how different that is, you know. Justifications, constant justifications. Is Andrew Tate Enneagram 3 social 3 or social 8? I don't know what is social 8 about fucking Andrew Tate, and I've seen other people throw this take, and I already counted it on Discord before, but it's this point of like, okay, Andrew Tate is someone who has complicity, right? He's like fighting to save people from Matrix, and it's like, okay, cool. So he's doing this. He's also, you know, earning millions upon millions of dollars, not just like a bit of money. I'm talking about millions by creating Hustle University. So there's this connection, right? And the thing with someone like that, what we look at that debunks a type like the social aid, is that there is something missing. What did really Tate care about the most in his life? Is it really his relationships? Is it really the complicity he has with others? Is it really what he was fixated always? Because as far as I know, he was always fixated on money. He was always fixated on survival. He was always fixated on, I don't have enough. I need more. I need more and more and more. I need to ensure that I have everything that I need. I can buy anything that I want. I will scam people. I will hire women as scam girls, and I'm gonna fucking pretend to be one of the chicks, and I'm gonna get money from men. I'm gonna exploit those women, and I'm gonna get the things I want.
Flip him.
You know? Yeah. People would believe that. People are like, oh my god, I knew he's a SP7. Fucking you sick fucking degenerate. Fuck you. Not you, but the person who you fucking subhuman shit. But the point is, as I was saying, this is someone who's not really guided by the social instinct, you know. And the social aid isn't just like, I'm gonna create complicity just so I can actually, in fact, I only care about exploiting people. I only care about money. All this complicity shit is a fraud. It's bullshit. That's not social aid. Just so you know, this is not a social aid. Social aid does not operate that way. They're not driven by money. They're not driven by material sources. Otherwise, they would be the conservation instinct, but they aren't. So I don't think Andrew Tate would be at either SP7 or SP8. There would be only two possible types for this charlatanistic, exploitative motherfucker. It is only SP7 or SP8. That's my opinion. Marcus says, by emotional outbursts, I mean anger and frustration, breaking things, launching items across the fucking room. That's intense. I've never broke anything, and I've certainly never launched an item across the room. In fact, I guess that makes me more controlled than half of the population throwing fucking plates at each other because they're angry. The funny thing about me is that the anger is such a weird component, you know. I'm here, I can be angry. I'm trying to make something work, and I get fucking pissed off, and I'm like, motherfucker, you know, getting angry, yelling at this shit. Or I'm actually, but the truth is, the anger and the frustration in the moment is not really that important. Now, when I'm actually in an environment where I'm in a conflict, I'm maybe talking to someone, a friend, and something happens, and they're very angry at me, I'm actually gonna be calm, you know. I'm not gonna lose my shit. I never lose my shit. I never get so angry I want to beat people up. I never get so angry I lose control, I throw things. That's never the case. I feel like for me, just anger, sometimes I get angry at dumb shit. That's how I best would fucking describe it, you know. It's usually dumb shit. Then it's shit that I have no control over somehow, and I get fucking angry about, you know. So that does happen too. But overall, no, there's no throwing things, there's no breaking things, and certainly no. I think it's cringe, to be honest, to be so upset you start breaking things. Like you're actually like, you probably need anger management if you break shit, you know. Like I get angry maybe, oh my motherfucker, I raise my voice just a bit, but I'm not like going haywire, you know? Like, so in a sense, bro, like you're good, man. You're good. Don't worry about that. That's funny. Rustlers type of rustlers
Rustlers.
University.
Yo, that's your SP7 name, bro. Rustler.
Rustler. I mean, I am the SP7, so I should open the Rustlers University. Yeah.
Base type.
That's actually, guys. You guys are so creative, dude. What the fuck, you know? Sometimes I like. How do you come up with this? Although, who am I to speak? I made words like cosplayer, decapitation, right? Cosplay dress up party, cosplay convention. So I'm not as bad, guys. I'm not as bad. In fact, I'm as good as you guys. Damn. Bageless and applied typology. Do imagine if this was a thing. Imagine if you could have like go to school for typology, bageless. We would be like the professors. We'd like
you could do that in Russia, right?
What you
I'm
say?
pretty sure they have sociology schools in Russia, like, and they have like university classes on it.
Yeah.
And that was maybe made up by Russian people. I don't know, but I feel like.
Oh wow, really? They have actual schools.
Yeah, for socionics, I think so.
Wow, bro, I need to be Russian. I still don't understand the anger part. That's because they numb themselves out. Healthy gut type poster boys go. Rusted brain rot. Don't ever motherfucking mention my name and the word brain rot ever in the same sentence, because that's decapitation. I fight against brain rot. Okay, the Rusted Nation exists to decapitate brain rot, and let's all be glad that we take very, very, very casual measures to do so. We take peaceful measures to do so. Okay, peaceful. So, but no, we fight against brain rot. Remember that. Always remember that. There's an institute. Institute sounds like for the mentally ill or something. That's crazy. There's a fucking university for typology. Yo, Rink, how do you think we would fare, bro? Like, how do you think we would manage in like a typology university?
Like
imagine if I failed.
Like with professors.
No. You know what's unironic? I probably would fail the class. Like there would be some stupid ass test they tell me to take, and I'm like, who gives a fuck about this shit? It's irrelevant. And I would tell them, tell the teacher.
Especially because this happens. Oh, sorry, you were saying?
No. You were saying.
This happens because like I have a bachelor's in psychology, and then I have a master's in industrial organizational psychology. And I'll tell you what, not everyone agrees. Not everyone agrees on like how something is supposed to be interpreted. Like, here's a fun fact. Did you know this idea of a subconscious is not even considered a real thing by certain psychologists? Like, the idea of a subconscious. There's only the conscious and the unconscious.
That's the problem with that's the problem though with psychology. Everyone fucking has an opinion and everyone disagrees with one another.
Yeah. So I can see you failing because you disagree with your interpretation.
Or even because like it's some dumbass dichotomies that this motherfucker like and I'm like, I didn't even read this shit. And he's like, well, that means you're not an expert. I'm more of an expert than you are. Let's put on the gloves, get in the fucking ring, and whoever wins is correct.
I think.
Can you imagine how many fucking typological issues would have been already covered if there would be a rule in typology? You step in a ring with someone, you fight, like you gloves, everything, and whoever wins the fight, they are correct typologically. They're correct. Everything that they say is true.
Bro, what is this? What in the 2F is this, bro?
Easy. And I would be like, okay, so who wants to fight? Okay, you? No, I'm a nerd. Okay, you? Are you ready to defend your shit? No, I'm easy. Bro, Rusted Nation would like literally be like, we would be typology.
Yeah, but it wouldn't mean that you're right either, though. You know?
I mean, if my foot is on your throat kind of does mean I'm right to a certain degree. Right?
No, it just means your foot is on my throat.
No, it kind of means whatever I say goes, which is the same thing. No, but
which is really interesting because this happened. People have burned libraries and exterminated like knowledge, but it only exists for that moment.
I know. I'm kidding.
But then it comes back. No. I know you are. I was just always wondering because it's true. You can de facto, if you have the power in a situation, talk about anything and say, "Yes, I'm king of all this, and this is my authority." But it's so interesting. But just to finalize that kind of like thinking process, I think I would do great in typology school only because I can balance alternative perspectives and be like, yeah, this is what like Professor Dingus thinks. I think I'm just gonna answer the test to answer the question, but I think Professor Dingus is stupid, But I kind of want my degree, bro.
And you know what I would do? Like most realistic,
what?
Cheat from you. Like I would sit with you and I would steal your answers. I'm like, yo, Ring, listen, man, fuck this, man. But you're smart. You know this subject. And that's what I would do, because I'm not gonna learn those. I'm out of principle. I cannot learn the dichotomies. It's an insult to my intelligence. So I need, and you would do it. And then, ironically, that's how I would see it, because I'm not learning those fucking. That's because the problem.
You can learn this shit and not believe in it. And actually, that's one of the best things you can do is learn someone's perspective, learn what they know, learn the opposite position's knowledge, because it makes it so much more easier to dismantle it. That's real decapitation. When you let someone talk and you tell them why exactly they're wrong.
It's funny, but sometimes I am that way, and I just ask this person, "Oh yeah, really? Yeah, explain why." And he's like explaining, so you think this? And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh shit, thank you for saying that." Decapitation mode, and that's true. They fall in a like landmine. Yeah, landmine. So you know what I'm saying? Like they land in the landmine thing.
They land in the mine.
Yeah.
I like this hypothetical.
I'm curious what you guys think about my 9-core hypothesis. And 9, a type which behavior is structured the most around their environment, meaning can be. I mean, I agree with this. Like a 9 literally will adapt, and they can be rigid. That's listen, SP9 can be rigid, they can be traditionalists, especially if you ignoring the SP9, you look at the SLI, which would be the SP9 by correlation. I know you guys hate correlations, it's okay. We can use them whenever it's useful, but they are in a role. SLIs are traditionalists, so I think it could make a lot of sense for that to be the case. I mean, realistically, your logic is only applicable if you can implement it. Many ancient societies didn't believe weak or ugly people could have ideas. I mean, we still don't believe that shit. That's why most people who have brainrot ideas on PDB are most likely ugly. But, fuck it. I'm joking. Fucking need to specify I'm joking. Oh my god.
I feel like we're getting so philosophical. Like yeah. I think there's when there's a power structure and you're able to implement what you believe. Yes, by de facto, whatever you say is like your real logic.
I'll tell you guys something very serious about this though. Typology. Okay. I'll shock you. Typology is not about the truth. Typology is only about influence and power, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the person who is able to change things, to make things a reality within typology, for example, is the person who holds the most influence, right? They say something and everyone will adapt, everyone will do it. And that, in a sense, becomes the new accepted truth, right? SCE can only be Enneagram 9, let's say, right? Enneagram 9, SCE, and we will create a take and we're going to launch it, and right? That becomes the truth as for most people. And when you did, it's like, wow, you don't believe in that combination? Fucking, you don't know shit. So in a sense, in typology, and that's the bad thing about typology, and that's really just a human thing in every structure and every social structure. When you have people in power, in influence, they're able to create anything that they wish. And this is why if you have influence and you have power, there's a lot of responsibility in that sense, because like, what you say can be taken and it can be used, it can be turned into a consensus, especially if the community is small. That's why I said it's not necessarily about the truth. It literally just is about influence. Whoever has the influence is able to do anything. But we want to make it about the truth because it's a good ideal to have. It's good ideal to have that we
Absolutely.
care about the truth and we care about being correct, more so than about influence or other fucking bullshit. That's what's necessary to know. But it's also good to know that typology is indeed political, guys. The typology community is political, and that's just the fucking nature of the shit, like with any other fucking bullshit people believe in, like religion or politics. It's no different. Like, typology is no different than religion or politics. It's the same shit, the same framework, the same arguments. Like, for example, right? Oh, Palestine, this, that. Are you pro this? Are you pro that? Well, are you pro correlations? Are you anti correlations? Oh, well, fuck you. You are fucking anti correlations. It's the same thing. It's the same exact thing in a different context, in a different field. But it's the same exact thing. It's hilarious. But because sometimes people just think, no, typology is just about like numbers and like just letters. No, it's political in a sense. I'm ranting, but you guys get what I'm saying. What do you think, Ring?
I think that there's so much that keeps us, and this is kind of like why I was kind of like testing the philosophy, like with, oh, if you have power, you can decide what is true. And then just thinking about it, no matter how much power you have, no matter how much political intrigue you have, how much influence and manipulation or whatever it is, that at the end of the day, what is right, and what is wrong when it comes to logic. And you can manipulate that outcome by using external factors, but all it does, it takes away from the authenticity of knowledge itself.
Yes,
and
that's
what I think about.
See, but that's the idealism. That's the idea. That's not the actual concept of it. The actual concept is that typology consensus is only based on influence.
Yeah,
really,
it's true. I agree with that. Someone with a better argument might gain influence, but at the end of the day, you're gonna need influence to sell your argument, and it's an unfortunate truth because how much time in history that humans believe something that was completely false, but just most people believed it, so of course it's true. And there's so many times where we just don't believe the correct shit, even though it's provable in another era.
We believed it in the moment with other people because people of influence did this, said this, and now we believe it, and it's changing. So it's really funny. You have to think about this, and it's we're saying this as typology Odyssey. We hold some certain influence for sure, but it's also just good for people to be aware of this.
Yeah, the truth is independent from how well it spreads. Exactly, is all I'm gonna say. You know?
So always question, obviously, and the truth is that we should strive for correction and truth as an ideal, right? There should be an ideal we should strive for, regardless anything else. That should be your idealistic vision, because without the idealistic vision, it will turn into fucking dog shit. It's gonna turn into just fucking game of influence, game of fucking bullshit, which we don't want, because it's too easy. I mean, the typology is so small. If I say something right now, and if it's plausible enough, like IESP7, let's imagine IESP7 will make it a fucking reality. I'm gonna push this thing. We're gonna push it. 2, 3, 4 months, 5 months, everyone's going to believe in it. The consensus is going to change. That's going to be the accepted combination. Think about what that means. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true. Like, maybe I had good arguments, but is that necessarily true? We believe it is. I mean, we certainly do believe it is true. So what is this? So it's such a really dangerous thing, and it's good for creators or people in influence or people to be aware of this. Because you don't want to do that, you want things to be true at the end of the day, and that's where it becomes serious, because people use typology like they use politics, like they use religion. It's a battlefield. They don't use typology as anything else other than a battlefield. They don't use it for growth. They don't use it to learn. They use it only to engage and to battle others. No different than what we see people do in politics. Same fucking thing, different topic. And that's when it's not okay. You know, we should be here and always remember we are here because we want to grow. We want to apply this theory for ourselves to become better and to become more improved people and to be more healthy. Either you opt and play the game that everyone else in power plays or criticize sometimes from the sideline disempowered. It's unfortunate, but that's the reach as you have. How are you doing, Rust? Say hi to Ring. Well, Ring is here, so you can say hi to him.
Hello.
Hello. Is Zodiac part of typology? I mean, I don't know how you... I mean, to me, anything that categorizes personalities is part of typology in that sense. I guess if we use that definition, it just depends what kind of definition.
It doesn't come from like a psychological background or some sort of the brain or your like upbringing influence you in the way that all the other like typology are there, but it tries to explain personality, and for that I would say yes, it is a typology. And maybe if you want to spread it like a personality theory of a sort, and very hard on the word theory.
Loosely. What do you
like
think?
I can have a theory that says all of our fucking personalities are from the core ancestor, 10,000 years ago.
You can make
have the same personality.
Yeah, you can make it. You can make it.
That's like evolutionary personality right there, but it's kind of dumb. But yeah.
What do you think of people who say anagram is like astrology? Anyone who says anagram is like astrology has literally negative IQ. Like
I agree.
Their critical thinking is so fucking dog shit. It's, to me, it's lack of basic logic. So let's do an experiment. Let's do a logic experiment, right? Anagram is like astrology. It's as dumb and useless. It's nonsensical. Okay, so I'm SCE TI fucking Polar. Let's break down the fucking complete nonsensical logic. Astrology is a typological system that uses the movement of planets and your date of birth to determine what the fuck your personality is. It does not depend on anything else other than this, what time you were born, basically the date of birth, exact date of birth, the movements of planets and everything else. Now, there's no relation to any psychology when it comes to astrology. There's no personality theory, there's no Carl Jung, there's no psychology involved whatsoever in astrology. And every person, your personality is determined by the date. Simple as, nothing else. You can fucking be two different people from completely two different backgrounds with histories that are very different, but because you're born in a similar fucking date or whatever the fuck, you have the same type, same person. Anagram is based on psychotherapy, right? On for like the history of people who use psychotherapy. Naranjo, for example, Naranjo's anagram is based on psychotherapy. That's why he wanted to utilize it, right? And all of it in the end is kind of based on Freudian psychology, right? We have the oral fixations and shit like that. So there is so much of the overall pre-existing theory of personality theory. It's based on actual personality theory. It's based on actual human psychology. Freud, right? Sigmund Freud. Serious shit. And it is based in reality. It talks about how your childhood creates who you are. How your childhood creates all the defense mechanisms that you develop, which makes sense. And that's how this works. It's logically, you can see logical consistency. It makes fucking sense. It is based on something tangible. Astrology is nothing more than a fucking jerk off. And if you are someone who believes in astrology, personally, I could never fucking be around someone who tells me that astrology is fucking real. I could not do that. I'm sorry. There's such an ideological difference between us. I cannot coexist with you. Don't talk to me, please. I don't want to get in a conflict with you. Maybe we could be good friends, but because you believe in astrology, I can do it. So just don't mention that shit in front of me. That's my opinion.
Enough said. Not much to add to that.
Something silly people also say is both MBTI and socionics is. So most people who say, that I've noticed, most people that say, oh, socionics is pseudoscience, are the same people who cannot argue back. There's a pattern. They can't explain their point. But it's pseudoscience, bro. Like, none of this shit makes sense. You're just dumb and you're wrong. You use the pseudoscience as an excuse. No one who has half a fucking brain even has to talk that well, but socionics is pseudoscience. Everyone knows it's pseudoscience. That's why it's not necessary to fucking mention it every 10 minutes. And if you are mentioning it every 10 minutes, you're most likely coping. Everyone knows it's pseudoscience. You're not breaking the fucking internet with this statement. Okay? But to say because both are pseudoscience, both are equally stupid, that's another lack of logic. That's another illogical statement. Because two systems can be pseudoscientific, meaning there's no like empirical fucking data to confirm it with tangible evidence, but one can be fucking astrology and the other can be socionics. What the fuck? Like, you know, like, no, dude, it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous. People just don't think. It's pseudoscience, exactly. You know, and to me, I look at such people. They're just not. They don't like thinking. They really don't like to think at all. Logic is completely ignored. Ring, was learning psychology fun at the university, and how valuable is a psychological degree in the medical field, at least in America?
Okay, so I can explain this like from a personal satisfaction, effective value, and then like a career value, because those are kind of different, right? I will say it was very fun. I've taken every single psychology course at the university that I went to. I I didn't even realize you didn't have to do that because I was like college kid, but it was really fun. I don't regret doing that at all. I just took every single one: abnormal psych, addiction psychology, you name it. Like I did everything, right? Um, I will say that from a career standpoint, I've noticed that if you're trying to get into medical school, having a non-biology and a non-chemistry degree can give you a leg up, or at least that was true for when I was in that point in my life. Having like even a history degree was better than having a biology degree. Yes, you still needed to do all the pre-med requisites, right? But having that made you just a little bit more interesting. Psychology was a good one that was tangentially related, but also kind of set you apart. But you have to look into that's still relevant. Um, I think, of course, if you're going to go into psychiatry, it's like practically mandatory. But I will say that like from a human perspective, like just value, being someone who understands psychology and being in any care field, any customer service, but especially in medicine, is such a good thing because there's so much emphasis on fixing the body and a de-emphasis on the relationship with you and the person. Like if you're a caregiver, if you're like a doctor or physician, a lot of physicians cannot talk to their patients. They're like kind of fucking assholes, and
They
oftentimes
are,
they're
yeah.
not even
That's true. Yeah,
trying to,
that's yeah.
right?
That's true. Yeah,
Like
they are.
having the background of people and understanding how people work at like
Yeah, at least
with
being less of
theories
a
is still
fucking
good.
dick, you know? Like, it's so simple. But it changes such an experience for people because the fact is, most people, that's what they look for. They go to the doctor and they want to make sure the experience is good. And it's not just getting their shit fixed.
Yeah.
If you are just this stuck up motherfucker, they're not going to go there again. Bad experience with
What
you.
do they call it? Bedside manners or something?
Yeah,
Something
right?
like that. It's very bad. And psychology is super important to add a human element back. Um, but yeah, I would say that's what it really comes down to. I think it's very good. I recommend anyone to do it. But of course, in America, when we're in a post-dystopian capitalist society, you have to make sure you can survive. So you need to have a strong career plan if you're going to get a psych degree. Especially with psych degrees, most of the time to get paid well, you need a master's. But if you're gonna go to med school, I think it would be interesting. Like I said, I know one of my uncles who has a history degree, and went into med school, and it actually helped them, not hindered him.
Let's say mana. What's Rings typology? Rings typology is actually Rings typology is social 7 LIE.
Checks notes. This is correct.
This seems
LIE
to be
social 7.
But guys, it's time for us to bounce. Okay, so next stream is gonna be about the head triad. So keep that in mind and shit.
And that's gonna be Friday.
Okay, guys. I just realized something.
Oh no!
When my shit just left my mouth, so my shit didn't leave my mouth, literally. Obviously, I meant the word, but yeah. Anyway, so I'm not gonna be able to do it on Friday.
Okay, cool.
Because guys, I'm going to the cinema and I'm gonna watch a movie, so I'm not gonna be able to literally on the same fucking time, probably literally at 8 p.m. So I won't be able to make it. But Sunday for sure, and maybe we can do the stream earlier. We will see. But for now, it is time to go.
Honestly, that makes a lot of sense because I actually have my vacation time coming up.
Yeah,
so it might just be like a it might just be a day we skip.
Okay, we can skip that.
We'll let you all know.
We can do it Thursday. Yeah. Yeah. We will.
We'll talk. We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you for the stream. Thank you for everyone being here present as always. June and Denezo and all of you guys. Sergio Carvalho. Thanks for the support, guys. Always being on streams. It's nice to see the consistent viewership. You guys are legit, Rusted and Nation.
You guys are the best. Shout out to the mod team.
Shout out to the mod team too. Shout out. So yeah, we are going, guys. It was nice talking to you. See you next week. We are bouncing.